the show today, we're going to be talking to you about dyslexia. Dyslexia is a learning disability that children have, that some children have. It's a learning disability that affects the reading and processing skills. There's a way it's about the brain. It's not that the brain is not intelligent. The brain is intelligent, but it's just that the brain processes reading and reading basically in a very, very different way. In fact, some adults have it and they don't know. Some people have grown up with it. They just say, oh, komowe, komowe. No, it's not like komowe. There's something wrong sometimes.
Dyslexia is a special learning disability
Okay.
that makes it difficult for people that have it to read, write, and spell. And I would love to say some basic things that children have to understand
Okay.
about dyslexia. It is a neurological condition.
That means it's about the brain.
Yes, about the brain. So most times, parents and teachers and the society blame these children for not being able to write, spell, and read. But it's a neurological condition. So these children are neurodivergent.
Does it mean that those children are not normal? Does it mean that their
Yeah.
brain is not normal?
Yes, their brain is not wired the same way the brain of a normal child is wired. So their brain is functionally and structurally different from that of a neurotypical child. That is a normal child. So it is not their fault. And also it is a long-term
Long-term
We're
thing.
going to be talking about signs that parents can watch out for
Okay.
when a child is
And even for children listening.
yes, what they can watch out for.
Okay.
Okay, for example, when a dyslexic child is in kindergarten,
All right.
there's a high possibility that they struggle with rhymes. For example, when I was in kindergarten, other children were able to recite rhymes easily, but I find it difficult to follow their sequence. Okay, I find it very
You
difficult.
were very slow.
I was very slow and I could not catch up. So, and also they have difficulty with learning songs. Most of the times even those nursery songs, they have difficulty with it. When other children are easily singing along with their teachers in nursery class, you see that child just sitting down, finding it difficult to flow with the rest of
others.
it. Yeah, because as I said, this is not just reading, writing, and spelling disability.
And I think I also found out that children, they can't identify letters.
Yes.
Some can even identify, especially when you get to sounds.
Yes.
You see that they can't identify some sounds.
They find it difficult to recognize both letter and sounds. They can't recognize. They can't decode. So that's the term. They find it difficult to decode. They find it difficult to also learn new words. So, and they find it, for example, when they find it difficult to recognize the words you've even taught them before. So, for example, if you show them a word on a page, so when you go to the next page and you show them that same word,
they might not recognize it.
Yes, and they can also struggle to remember things. They forget things a lot because most of the things that they learn is always in their working memory. It does not go to their permanent and
memory.
temporary memory. So you have to teach them one thing over and over again before they get it, and they have a very low comprehension too. When you teach them to read, it's another thing is for them to be able to read. Another thing is for them to be able to comprehend whatever they are reading. So teachers should not be fooled by the fact that this child is reading. No, the dyslexic child can be reading,
but does not even understand.
Yes.
What he or she.
Yes.
So many of them, they're stigmatized, especially in people who don't have understanding of these things.
Yes.
They just stigmatize and say, komowe, kofekawe, and things like that. Meanwhile, such a child has a learning disability. Actually, special schools for children with learning disabilities.
They are special schools. I'm an ambassador to Dyslexia Help Africa. So it's a special school for children with dyslexia. So, for example, when you ask a dyslexic child a question, you give them time to process the information. For example, when I ask you a question, you answer me. A normal child answers immediately. But for a dyslexic child, you give them time to process.
Like it takes a very long time for them to process what you are saying.
They have varying processing speed.
How did you learn how to read despite the slow pace and everything? How did you learn how to prepare for tests and still emerge as the best graduating students from University of Ibadan?
All right. So I'll be starting from my primary school experience. After getting the right support,
Okay.
I then had to work on myself and by myself.
So that means children listening to us, the fact that you're aware of it, and yes, maybe your parents are aware of it, it means that you also have to work on yourself. So don't just say that, oh, parents will take you to a special school. Yes, they can take you to a special school, but we're trying to tell you that it requires an intentional effort. So let's know, what are some of the things that you did?
Okay, I've read about so many dyslexic children
Okay.
like me, and one thing that is common among the successful ones among them is that they are very hardworking.
Yeah, so you can't afford to be lazy.
You can't afford to be lazy with dyslexia.
Mm.
And for example, it's take for a normal child, when a child is taught hey, when a normal child is taught hey, the child grabs it immediately. But you know that you have to read it like 10
times
before you get it. So that means that if a normal child is taking, and we have so many successful dyslexics in the world, most of our inventors in the world, most of this Albert Einstein, most of these renowned scientists in the world, most of there are some presidents of the United States of America, there are artists, renowned artists, architectures in the world, most of them are dyslexic. You can channel your energy into things that can make you excel. For example, if you're good in sports, you can start.
Are there any special teaching strategies that teachers could use to help this kind of students or support them?
Yes, they are. We have structured literacy. Structured literacy is a reading science of reading.
Okay.
For children with learning difference. So there's a structured way that they should read. So there are structures that have been put in place for them to learn effectively. So as a teacher, you might want to take classes.
Special classes
For your children that have dyslexia, so that you can know how to because so as a teacher, when you notice these red flags in students, please, you can invite their parents. Perhaps their parents are not aware, so you invite their parents, and these red flags is not that okay when you observe that a child cannot read for the first week you call the parents. No, these red flags, they must be persistent.
Yeah.
These signs must be persistent, and they must occur in combination of other signs. Like for example, if probably a child cannot spell and that same child cannot read, so
you know that this child has this disability.
Yes, so they must persist and they must reoccur. Early intervention is actually the key for children with dyslexia.
We're talking about some strategies parents can employ and teachers can employ to support children, these children that have this learning disability. So we're talking about creating an enabling environment.
Yes.
There's some things you were talking about.
Yes, you have to, as a teacher, you have to tell parents when, in case the
Inform
parents do not know.
parents.
Yeah, you have to tell them, and you have to recommend early intervention. So we have schools like Dyslexia Europe Africa for them. Also, as parents and teachers, you have to give them emotional support. I think my parents did not know what to do. They didn't know what to do, but one thing my parents did very well, the only thing they knew how to do and they did very well, was to give me emotional support.
And be patient. Dyslexic children are very creative.
They are very intelligent.
Very intelligent. It doesn't affect their intelligence. So to parents, please, to that child that you have, to the student listening to us, to the child listening to us, maybe they've called you a lodo, they say you don't know how to read. No, it's possible. You can get help.